Gray divorces often take more time to dissolve and finalize because couples in this demographic have different financial concerns, such as dividing pension plans, retirement accounts, 401ks, and what happens to the healthcare benefits? Well, here to answer all those questions and walk us through what you need to know is Donna LaScala, a contributor here on the Divorce Hour. Donna is the president of the Long Island financial firm Comprehensive Divorce Solutions. Donna is a certified divorce financial analyst, a registered financial neutral, and president of the Long Island chapter of the Financial Planning Association. Donna, welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Always a pleasure to have you. So, what are the key factors to evaluating what accounts and what are the balances and what exists when a couple is going through a great divorce?
So really with any divorce, during any divorce, whether it is, a couple in their 30s or a couple in their 50s or 60s, the most important thing is to determine what assets actually exist, what type of assets they are, and what is premarital versus marital in the whole pool of those assets. Many people, when they're in their 50s or 60s, it might be very likely that a 401k was begun before the marriage. So there are some years of working before the person actually got married. That has to be taken into consideration. Also, the potential taxation of all of those assets has to be determined to make sure that any equitable distribution takes tax ramifications into account. Because as I always say to people, you have to compare apples to apples, not apples to kumquats. The taxation of assets is very important because it's unreasonable to think that you have one person versus the other subjected to all the potential tax consequences and penalties when you're doing a split of assets. So the whole part of this needs to be taken into the equation because that's the reason why we use the word equitable versus equal. And of course, all debts need to be factored in as well as part of the whole pool of assets that exist.
What is financial need and how is it determined so it meets the essentials and requirements of what each person is entitled to?
So as a CDFA, Certified Divorce Financial Analyst, it's part of my job to perform what I call a needs analysis for each individual. Couples sometimes forget that they've been living under the assumption of two incomes and a shared pool of assets. But once they divorce, it's going to be one income for each individual and a split of assets. But more importantly, it's going to be individual budgets. And these things need to be determined in order to truly reach what we call equitable in the distribution of assets. So, for example, and especially in a gray divorce, if people are nearing or in retirement, the plan that they have put in place has to be revised and tweaked to meet the needs of each individual. So what do I mean by that? Let's say people are in retirement and they're receiving Social Security. If spouse A is receiving a monthly Social Security of $3,000, let's just say, and spouse B has chosen to receive their spousal benefit of $1,500, while they're living together, they've actually had a shared income of $4,500 a month. But now they're going to split, and spouse A will have $3,000 of income, but spouse B is only going to have $1,500. So something needs to be done immediately to compensate spouse B for that immediate loss of income. And that's where you have to start getting creative because we're not talking about earned income. We're talking about passive income of Social Security benefits. And the Social Security Administration is not going to split it for you. Something needs to be figured out because it's an individual benefit based on that person's work history or the spouse's ability to choose their spousal benefit. They're not going to say, okay, well, you know what, we'll take a little from the $3,000 person and give it to the $1,500 person. Doesn't work that way. So something needs to be done to compensate spouse B for the loss of income.
I'm so glad you talked about going from a two income to a single income household because let's face it, that's what divorce is. And you are a registered financial consultant. So this is going to take me to my next question. When it comes to a great divorce, what does a single life on a pension look like, especially, and this is something you and I have talked a lot about in this economy where inflation is at a 40-year high?
Okay, so this is really very important because the dollar is not stretching as far as it used to historically. One of the most crucial points in a great divorce could be the choices that either are about to be made or have already been made when it comes to certain types of retirement income. So you mentioned the pension. So for example, if spouse A has a pension and is already in payout status, the choice they made about how to take that payout, that income, is crucial. There's always the option on a pension or an annuity to take the income based on single life expectancy 100%. This is a very attractive option because it gives the individual the highest amount of income, whether that income is being taken monthly, quarterly, annually, whatever. It's the highest amount of income. However, when that individual dies, the income stops. So a strategy that's often used is to take out a life insurance policy to cover spouse B for the loss of income on the death of the person who's receiving the pension. And if this scenario has already been created, it needs to be factored into the divorce negotiation because now not only is there a potential future loss of income, but there is an immediate current loss of income. And a lot of pension plans, if you're already in payout, do not allow you to go back and recalculate. Some do, some don't. So again, some very crucial conversations need to be had. And if there is a life insurance policy in place, you need to make sure that it stays in place and is carried forward so that spouse B is protected in the future. But a current conversation needs to be had because, again, just like Social Security, there is no continuation of that income for spouse B if there was a single life expectancy 100% option taken.
Well, one thing that you were talking to me about when we were off mic, for those who fall under the Great Divorce, the importance of knowing what restricted stock units are. What are they?
Okay, so restricted stock units are part of an executive compensation plan. More often than not, the reason why this is important in the Great Divorce is that more often than not, higher-level executives are people who have been working in an industry or for an organization longer than a few years. So they're more likely to be in the age range of the Great Divorce. Many companies are starting to offer these executive-level types of plans again because they're an incentive for the individual to stay with the company, golden handcuffs, if you will. So when an individual is granted restricted stock units, RSUs, this is not stock that they can immediately sell on the open market. They're not shares. They're units of those future shares. And these units usually have a vesting schedule. So when an individual going through a divorce has these units that have been granted to them, they have a value that needs to be determined, and the non-propertied spouse needs to be compensated. But the problem is that a lot of times the units cannot be sold, and they also cannot be transferred in kind to the spouse who's not the employee. So another asset needs to be used in order to compensate spouse B for their percent of the value of those units. So it's a little bit complicated.
No, very complicated. But one thing that should not be complicated is being able to find you. So, Donna, let's have that contact information.
So my phone number is 516-234-7522. My email is compdivorce@gmail.com.
Donna LaScala, President of Comprehensive Divorce Solutions and President of the Long Island chapter of the Financial Planning Association. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back after this break.
At Comprehensive Divorce Solutions, Donna LaScala provides the tools for people to deal with assets, debts, equitable distribution, and retirement in divorce negotiations. We hold your hand during and after the divorce process, providing a roadmap of what happens next and into the future. Divorce is difficult whether you're initiating it or not. It's fraught with emotion. When you deal with emotions, you are not dealing with logic, making it more difficult to decide what to do with your money. Hiring a professional to assist you in walking down the money path is crucial to avoiding potentially costly mistakes. Donna's goal is to make sure that each individual knows how they are going to be able to survive and thrive during and after divorce. As a CDFA trained mediator and collaborative financial neutral, Donna helps people get unstuck and move forward towards their post-divorce future. Call Donna LaScala at 516-218-6919, 516-218-6919.